guys hear me? There we go. How's everyone doing? Happy Monday, or happy Monday, happy Thursday, wherever you guys are tuning in from. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and give folks a few more minutes to trickle in here. I did have to update the event invite before, so the link wasn't working before this, but hopefully it's working now. We'll give folks a few more minutes to get in here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Really looking forward to chatting today. Today we're going to go through data connectors. We've done this webinar one time before in the past, walked through the Google Drive connectors, some of the basic data warehouse connectors that we have like Postgress and Supabase. And we'll also do one for Google Ads too. I think it's really easy for us to get that set up. And we can talk through the different ways that you could connect your Google Ads account and how you could actually use that in Julius. We'll do a really brief overview of some of the other data connectors that we have and coming down the pipeline, and then spend any other extra time answering any questions that you guys have too. Let me know if the audio sounds good, and then we'll give folks one more minute to hop in here before we go ahead and get started. Where are folks tuning in from today? Audio is a little low. Hey, Bronson, how's it going? Let me turn this up just a little bit here. Coming from the office next door to the recording studio, which we typically do, but let's try this one here and see if this helps out a little bit. All right, where am I seeing this at? Julius out away. Nice. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. Hopefully the audio help a little bit. I turned it up just a little bit more. I'm using my MacBook audio here. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my other screen. This is the one I want to show off today. Let me move this over, then okay, cool. Sounds good now. Awesome. Let me make sure that there's no echo going on. Since I changed scenes, I think we're good here too. Okay, awesome. Right on. So this is a continuation. I think this one, like the third type of webinar we typically do. We do webinar 101, which we do onboarding, walk through all the different tools. We do a notebook specific webinar. And today we're going to just go over data connectors, right? I'll talk about what is a data connector and why have we built this. Some of the data connectors that we have available to us, we'll talk through. And then third, how do you actually use them in Julius? We'll walk through each of the different use cases today. At the end of today's session, hopefully you guys have a better understanding of just how to connect your data outside of the traditional methods from just uploading sheets or connecting sheets or uploading files, and essentially like how you could actually get started in using them too, and how does that actually work. As always, feel free to leave any questions in the chat. I'll be looking over periodically as I walk through these. But to begin, first, if you're just on Julius, right, how do you even find data connectors? Well, you can just navigate over here on the left side on the data connectors button, and you can just click this, right? You think of data connectors as a way for you to add and connect data to Julius, right? The traditional methods that I talked about earlier, uploading files or using your existing Julius files is probably the most common way. But we've added some ways for you to just do this seamlessly, right? Without you needing to go to these tools specifically, download files, and then re-upload them, right? So the first one I'll actually get started with today is the Google Drive file connector. All you simply have to do is just connect, sign in just as you would any other Google account. Here, just check off the see, edit, create, and delete specific files, and then just press continue here. And this is the Google Drive connector. What this lets you do is when you press the plus button here, click Google Drive, and then you could see any files that you have either in your personal, or if it's a part of a university or workspace, any shared drives as well too. So any files that you have access to, you could bring them directly into Julius, right? And one common question that we get from folks is, hey, if I'm uploading like a spreadsheet or if I'm uploading a Google Sheet that has multiple tabs, can Julius analyze that? And the answer is yeah, you can. Simply add it here and then just tell Julius load and preview the data. And then it's going to be able to extract all the different sheets or different tabs on that Google spreadsheet, right? And you can actually see that here. If we expand the Data Explorer, you'll see Julius pull it. And then you should be able to access it here. All types of files, whatever you have in your Google Drive, you can analyze, from CSVs, text files, to even Excel or Google Sheets too. So you can see we pulled 3 different tabs of data that I had on that Google Sheet. The other really cool thing about the Google Drive connector is you see this button here. Any of these tables that either Julius has generated or that you have in Julius, you could export it right back to a Google Sheet, right? You can see this here. I'll try one more time. Maybe try this guy. Sure, let me try over here. I'm going to expand this one. I'm not sure why it's not working, but in a nutshell, you could just click this and it's going to export this data directly back into a Google Sheet in your Google Drive, if that makes sense. We'll try one more time. Let me see if I could just do like identify top demographics here. So yeah, my previous workflow, and I've seen some power users do this, is just download the files themselves manually, go to Google Drive, and then upload them back in there. Sometimes I would do that just to validate the results of Julius. Let's try this one here. Looks like it might be just for like generated ones. I'm curious if it had issues with this one in particular, but looks like it's working now. We'll see this one. One thing to call out is you might see it block a pop-up. I think one thing that Chrome does, if you're using Chrome like I am. But in this case, we could see the results from that one query added here directly back into the same Google Drive. And the other cool thing that I'll call out is this helps in a way where you could save files essentially to your Google Drive by using this Exports to Sheets button. And then you could just go back into Julius and analyze them, right? So it's almost like a flywheel where you could process data, put it back into Google Drive, pull it back out, and it just makes it so much seamless now that we have the Google Drive connector there too. Other ones we have as well, in addition to the Google Drive connector, is the OneDrive. This sort of completes the 2 main ways that either enterprise users or the bulk majority of our users store their data, right? Same exact thing here. You could sign in using your Microsoft account, or if you're using OneDrive for Business or SharePoint, for example, you could connect to it this way as well. So you could pick your account, log in, and then same exact way for the Google Drive connector. Pretty basic, just select OneDrive from the file selector here, personal OneDrive or SharePoint, and then you could connect to it. Same exact way as well. That's the really basic overview of just the main 2 ways that we connect to data. The other one I'll call out right now is the Google Ads connector. And let me actually switch over to my other browser over here. Hopefully this one works. Let's see. Let me try this out. Okay, and then I'm going to click, let's see, where did I go? Julius demo, this one. And then I'm going to try this guy out. Apologies, a whole bunch of different windows here. And I'm going to hide this guy. There we go. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys. Okay, cool. I think this one worked. Slightly different, same exact window, just slightly different permissions on this account over here. But you can go over to data connectors here, and you can click, and I'm actually going to disconnect my Google Ads real quick. Just click on Google Ads, right? You'll first have to choose which account you want to connect to, right? Here I'm going to choose Julius Dev. I'm going to connect to this one. Go ahead and click it again. And there's 2 different ways that you'll see us display accounts here, right? If you guys are like a part of a company or your organization, you really only have one Google Ads account, you'll see that visible here. You won't see this drop down. You'll simply just select the Google Drive, or sorry, the Google Ads account that you guys use primarily for your ads. Whether you're a marketing team or you're just doing the analytics for the marketing team, you could just use this one here too. One other ask, and this is how it's displayed here, is with this drop down. Is we have some folks that do marketing for multiple companies, right? You might have like an ads agency, or you have a consultant that's doing ads work. They work with multiple different companies and therefore have multiple different Google Ads accounts. Well, that's why we have this drop down here, and you could select whichever company that you're trying to work with. I know one of the common questions that we got from these ads agencies is, hey, I don't want to have any overlap between 2 of my separate customers that I'm working with, or 2 of the folks that I'm doing work with. You could actually select those and partition them separately without overlapping any of the results there too. And that's sort of why you could see it as a drop-down menu here, like that. In this case, I'm just going to connect to the only one that I have connected. And then again, I'll just go over to the thread and then just click Google Ads. here. I think it's this one. We'll try this guy out. And then once this is done, same exact way that you would interact with any other file, you could just start chatting with it as if you're chatting with someone that has access to your ads data, from keywords to different campaigns to even cost stuff that you guys are doing for customer acquisition costs, or if there's even campaign costs too. Really, really cool. I would definitely recommend you guys try it out if you guys do use Google Ads at your organization. I'm going to take a look here and see what I have access to. This is the dev one. Let me see what I have access to here. Cool. I'm just going to say, take a look at my campaigns I'm running currently. All right. This is something that we've added recently, but as Julius is connecting to these more complex data connectors, right, and we're not just uploading files and using those, you can actually see Julius starting to learn from the sources that we have added. And you'll see that popped up right here, view learned information. That's something I'll talk a little bit more about. But as Julius, and if you are familiar with just querying tables in general, usually what happens is you need to understand, this is the users table, I have user information here, or these specific columns are what I use to join these tables together, right? Normally this is all stuff that you would have context about and would need to do this when you're writing these queries. But since Julius is able to just query across the board, you don't have to give it that context, if that makes sense. It helps to give it context, but Julius is actually going to learn, hey, this table contains this sort of data. This is how we could connect it to this other table, right? And you sort of see that here when you looked at data tables, and you see the context that Julius has already. It has, to analyze current campaigns, I'll be looking at the campaigns table. This table contains information about each campaign, including its campaign ID, campaign name, start date, etc. Great question, Bronson. Yeah, exactly. You can. If Julius will take its first pass at doing the analysis or the joins for you, the context building. But if you ever do want to either update these learned information, or maybe it just got it wrong, you could actually edit these as well. For example, if campaign end date wasn't correct, or maybe ID wasn't correct, or if I had like the users table in here and there's a really unintuitive or non-intuitive column that I have, you could actually add that in here as well too. So you could edit these too. That's one way that you could sort of add in those explicit joins. You could also freeze these as well. So if you don't want Julius updating or adding on to what you've already given it, that's one way. Or you could simply just go to your chat with Julius and actually just tell it, and then it'll take that and update those tables for you, that one table I showed for you. Cool. I think this one is my demo account. I'm actually going to try my other connector here. Let's do, I have it here. So I'm going to press plus, and then I'm going to click on the Julius AI, and then we'll try this Google Ads account too and see if this one works, just so I can give you guys an overview. And I'll say, go ahead, let's try the Julius AI connector. Let's try the Julius AI connector. Let's see if this one works. So this one I've used before. This should have some data that I should have access to. I'm going to pull open one more tab over here just to double check something. Cool, so there you go. So you can see the different campaigns that we're running there, or at least for this demo data that you can analyze. And you could even be like, hey, let's visualize these campaigns somehow. And then any findings or insights about the campaigns that we can optimize for. And this is the reason why we built this, is there really is no easy way to analyze your ads data that's in your Google Ads. I mean, we use Google Ads internally, and there is no, like, they don't have Gemini access in Google Ads. And then separately, we were always pulling it into some other tool, whether it was like Grafana, Posthog, or some other way for us to analyze actual ads metrics too. So far, it's been really interesting seeing Julius first visualize and do like that first pass, but also think through different ways that we could optimize. It could find those trends just as if you're analyzing any other data in Julius too. So that's been the learnings that we've had, at least internally too. So we'll let Julius pump these out. Cool. So you can see some of the different cost per conversions metrics here. Also top 10 campaigns by clicks. It depends on how you're running it, but that's one way that you could start to visualize some of these inside of Julius. The other thing that we added recently was the ability to write, right? So maybe we do want to optimize some of these campaigns. What you would normally have to do in the old workflow would be go to your Google Ads account, update those campaigns manually, make any adjustments. Well, you could actually do that in Julius. You could say, hey, let's update the campaign, or let's update the assets, or let's update the keywords, right? That's one thing that you can do. I won't do it on this one because I don't know what this is actually connected to, but it is possible to write to those campaigns if you want to just have a one-stop shop for all of your ads data. And then the one last thing that we added in too was your ability to use some of those features that you have in Google Ads, right? Features as in keywords, for example. I know that there's a lot of keyword research and trends research that Google Ads allows you to do. Those metrics, we use them internally, are super helpful for optimizing your campaigns. So one thing you can do is you could say, can you show me, or I should say, let's use the Google Ads tool to get Google keyword performance, I'll say historical performance for these keywords, for example. Say like AdSense, Google Ads, and then maybe like AI ads or something. Let's try this out and see if this works. This way you could sort of see like, hey, we've seen historical performance of like these AdSense keywords or Google Ads keywords, right? Whatever your campaigns are optimized for, you could use that, incorporate it into Julius, and use that as part of the strategy for doing like any campaign optimization or thinking through different ways. And you can see it's here, average monthly searches for these 3 keywords, competition index, even the low and then top high-end bids for these, and then also the monthly search volumes as well. And then one cool thing that you could try in addition is be like taking these into account. How can we optimize our campaigns that we're running? Can you forecast future trend volume or keyword volume potentially? And visualize it. Maybe we'll try this out. Cool. So you can see right there, it's just going to start generating the code using these keywords and the keyword data to help fuel and make better predictions about what we should be optimizing for. And let's see what it does. The other cool thing while this is running is you could just click any of these columns as well. I don't know if I showed this in the last webinar, but you can actually see some of the data within here that you're running. Whether it's campaign data, ad group budget, all these you could preview the first 10 rows or so just to have an understanding of what's in these tables themselves. Really common question from us as we used it internally. We're like, hey, I wish I could just see just a snippet of the data. You know, normally what you would have to do is write like a select star from everything and just see some of these, but you can actually preview some of the columns and things that we're running too. Okay, Jason's trying let's see, maybe I'll try one more time. Let's say possible to visualize the above. It might be something with the way this is formatted. Let me see. Try it again. Cool. And while we're on ads, I know Google Ads is one of the main ones, but the other one that we're really close on building out is the meta ads too. So you could really, whether or not you're using Google Ads or if you're using meta ads, we're going to try to get, or we will, not try to, we are getting it into Julius as well. So you should be able to connect your meta ads by the end of this week or early next week too. So stay tuned there. I think that works. Let me see here. Yeah, there we go. So it worked here. Built a really rough model here for forecasts of these trends. I know this is really basic keywords, but that's sort of one way that you could use this to help optimize. And then you can see some of the quick optimization pointers. Yeah, I think it's just not related to the ads that I was running there. But that's the Google Ads connector in a nutshell. So definitely go ahead and try it out. We use it here internally because, again, we just dog food our own tooling. We love using Google Ads, so that's why we've been just testing it out in Julius itself. The third final data connector that I'll cover today is the little bit more complex one, which is our Postgress connector, right? This is the one that we've really iterated on quite a bit, and I'll actually walk through what this setup looks like here. Let me go to my credentials I have here. I'm going to grab it here. And then I'll show you guys how to set it up. So you can simply click on Postgress, and then you're going to see these different fields. I don't know why there's a plus there. Yeah. You could name the connection. So here I'll just say this is my demo Postgres database. And then you'll have all the different credentials, right? So here I have my username, which I'm going to type in. I have the password, which I'm going to paste in here. This is it. And then you have the IP, which you could put in here for the host, port, and then the database itself. So here I'm just going to type in Postgres. And then you could add in, if you do have MFA enabled, you could choose it here, but here I'm just going to add the connection. Cool. And then here I have a demo data set. This one has just basic call center data, and I'm just going to use this one, so I'm going to click try it out. And then just like we were using the Google Ads connector, it's going to connect directly to either a thread or also a notebook too, depending on how you're using Julius. We'll try it out in a thread first, but I'll show you how it works in a notebook. So just like the Google Ads connector, here I'm going to expand the Data Explorer, and then you can actually see all of those different tables again. We've had questions from customers saying like, hey, I have thousands of tables, right? You can grab all of them in Julius. It really depends on how everything's organized. And again, you can click any one of these, and it's going to preview the first 10 rows of that table specifically. And here you can see that as well. And then in practice, how does this actually work, right? So if I write a query this time, maybe show us sales by store from the most recent 6 months. Again, Julius is going to take a look at the data tables using the context it's gotten from my previous use of this, or if we've never used it before, is just going to start querying, and you'll see that here. It's going to start querying the data, trying to see what the tables are organized like and some of the column names like this. And then it's going to start building this context, and you can actually see this right now. It says, hey, I see some available tables. Let's examine, and it guessed correctly the store and the catalog sales table for it to sort of fulfill my prompt. Right. The cool thing is, again, typically, historically, Julius was running Python, right? When it was writing Python to fulfill the prompts. In this case, we've given it the ability to write SQL, so we could chat with these databases, grab the data, pull it into Julius, and then it's going to analyze that here inside Julius. So here, you can see this. All right, so it's building that context. It's like, hey, I think if I want to analyze sales by store, I should probably grab the sales. I should grab the store. I should grab any other columns that have something that mentions sales. And now it's starting to query those in real time. And then similar to the question Bronson had earlier, if you do see Julius go off course, or maybe it's not as intuitive for where you're getting this data, or maybe there's some really similarly named columns that might have different use cases, as always, you can just correct Julius to say, hey, don't use this column, use maybe like in this example, don't use the online sales. I really just want to see like the catalog sales or the in-person sales, right? You can clarify that too as well. All right, so it's still querying here. And then you can see everything populating on the side. This one takes a little bit of iteration because this is my first time connecting to it, or at least this is a fresh connection. But as you continue to use it over time, it's not going to need to run these like really high-level queries to understand how everything's organized. But it's really cool just to see it from start to finish here and some of the context it's building. And then some other things is like we've heard from some users, right? Like normally this is context that either, like even if you do write these queries, maybe you don't have the full understanding of these tables. Like it might be like your infrastructure team or maybe your data science team really understands how everything's organized. I've heard from like heads of marketing or analysts on like business operations teams being like, hey, this is easy for me to at least bridge that gap without me needing to bug the analytics team for really base level queries or how things are organized, right? At work, we have a data lake built on Hive. We typically use Databricks to query the data, and then some other tools also use Athena. Yeah, that's really common as well. Do we plan on being able to access Hive data lakes in the future? Yeah, I would say yes. You could anticipate, especially we've heard from some other large enterprise customers that they do have their data on Hive and also use Athena. They also have other like custom SQL connectors that they use. I think we heard like Trino is another way that folks had used to connect. There's a whole bunch of different ways that folks are using it, but yeah, it's on our roadmap to add as many of these as possible, right? I think our main vision or mission is to go where users' data is, right? We started with Postgres since that seems like the easiest way, and that's where our data lives internally. But we do have it on our roadmap, and we've been releasing these data connectors pretty frequently too. So stay tuned there. If there are some that you really absolutely want, for example, and if you do or haven't filled this out yet, there is a type form that we have. You could add in all the different data connectors that you're looking for. Always happy to hop on a call too to chat about it, but we monitor this type form like hawks, right? We want to know where users are having their data just so we can meet them where their data is. So Athena, Databricks is a really common one as well. And then even some of the other other ones as well. Snowflake, BigQuery are ones that we're still iterating on, but they're still like in beta, ready to be used. Not quite yet, but you can just try to use them. We've seen some users have success connecting their snowflakes, for example. And then some of the Athena like on AWS as well too, you can connect to. That's some of the ones that we're building out, at least for the data warehouse side. And then we're also building direct connections to the secondary uses. So like HubSpot, for example, or Intercom, that's another common one. So you can try to connect there. We have a significant gap in analysis tools, and I think Julius, that's great to hear. I think that it's a similar pain point that we've heard from a lot of enterprise customers is that, hey, we have BigQuery, Gemini really isn't where it needs to be. I used to use Looker a lot in a previous life, and it really is quite a lot of work to set up those dashboards and to connect to those data sources. So the dream is that you just don't even need to connect to those to begin with, right? Just bring all your data and just unify it across all the different things that you're using, whether, again, Google Ads, or if it's Google Drive or Meta Ads or OneDrive, just unify them all in one place is the vision. So Bronson, it'd be great to hear from you. Like, if you have any feedback for us about like, hey, what exactly you're looking for in your analysis tool, join our community or also reach out to us too. Happy to chat about it there. Cool. Let's take a look, and you can see we visualized it. It didn't print the visualization. I'll just say, hey, can you print the visualization for me? But this is what it came up with, and this is just from me typing in, hey, let's visualize sales. There we go. Visualize the sales by store from this data connector, and this was it. I went from all the way back here from one prompt, show us sales by store from the most recent 6 months, all the way down to this. And this is all from Julius querying all the different tables and building it over time. Let's try one more. I'll just say, show me any interesting trends. And then this query should take a lot less time because Julius has already built this learned information that we saw earlier about the tables and how things are organized. Nice meeting with Laura. Laura's great. She'll ask you some really great questions about just your use case too, and how you get the most out of Julius, 100%. Let me go back to that thread here. I lost it. This one is still working. Cool. This is all within a thread, right? So this is the easiest way I would say to get started using some of these data connectors, just to try them out. The thing I would definitely recommend though is using this in a notebook, right? We chatted about this on Tuesday about, hey, what's the purpose of notebooks, or how can you get even more value out of notebooks once you start to familiarize yourself with the features or some of the tools that the team has built, right? I'll let this one run, but in the meantime, let me just open up a notebook and just show you what I'm talking about here. We chatted on Tuesday about scheduled runs, right? And this is something that the team actually just built out this week. You can imagine, like, we build these notebooks. Again, you could watch the previous recordings from the webinars if you guys weren't able to attend that one, but notebooks in a nutshell lets you add in all the different prompts that you would normally use in your analysis and just run them in a sequence, right? Why would you want to do that? Well, imagine you do an analysis periodically. Maybe you have a report you need to give to either your team or maybe to your leadership team every Wednesday, right? Normally what you would have to do, grab the data, download it, query for it in your database, bring it into either Julius or whatever tool you're using. Maybe you're using Google Sheets, update all the different formulas, build this, do the pivot tables, visualize it, and then make a report, right? That's one way that folks have done it. Or alternatively, you could bring it into Julius and then build the prompts out here to sort of do that same analysis for you, right? So say, for example, I wanted to analyze sales by store over the last week, right? Or I'll say most recent. This data is kind of fixed. I'll say recent, most recent week. You could click on this button here and enable a schedule. And what Julius will do is every time, for whatever frequency you specify here, it's going to run this notebook for you, right? It's useful for cases where you do have data that is being updated periodically, right? So if, for example, I need a weekly report for how things have changed over the last week, then we use these data connectors that we just talked about, this Postgress connector. Julius will pull the data that's most recent, and then we'll use that to build either the analysis, the report, the dashboard, etc., right? And now that we have the ability to schedule these, you could schedule it to either build your report for you, or something that we'll talk about in an upcoming webinar is connect to an MCP or a different connector and then send the output somewhere, right? Or in the future, we want to give you the ability to email the results of an analysis or update a Slack channel with the analysis, right? There's so many different cool things that we're planning on building off of the schedule feature, but we talked about it briefly on Tuesday, but this is sort of how you could unlock a lot of the potential here. Internally, we use this to update a dashboard that we have every Wednesday. Yesterday, I spent maybe 20 minutes or so doing it myself manually, and that meant like running some of these cells and then refining it. And then I forgot I had scheduled the notebook. I ran it. I looked at my inbox and it said that, oh, your scheduled run was done. It actually did it for me, so I actually didn't even need to do it. And the visualizations came out exactly the same way that I had done it for the meeting prior. So eventually, I won't even have to do the manual runs myself. But give it a try, just add in your data. Whether you have either a sheet, you could do it with a sheet. You don't have to use it with the data connector. It just works best with a data connector. Schedule it, and you could even test out a run too and just show how Julius can automate, updating dashboards or updating metrics for any reporting or slide that you have to do. Cool. I think I got stuck here. I think it's because this is a brand new notebook, but you just say, can you visualize it? Maybe it's looking at the wrong one, so we'll say, let's show the most recent 6 months then, and visualize this. But if you guys weren't able to attend the webinar on Tuesday, do check it out. We talked through how to set up a notebook from scratch, how to iron out all the different cells, how to get reproducible results, which means like cementing some code cells in place, so that way you don't have to have Julius regenerating any code that it had made to fulfill your prompt. And then try to schedule it. The scheduling is really cool, and it works really hand in hand with some of these data connectors that we're building. Take a look here. Cool. Gail's asking, where can I find the webinar from Tuesday? Yeah, so all these are done on YouTube Live. I think I'll have to definitely update the schedule going forward, so that way they're always posted. But you'll see all of the old webinars here on Live, and I'll post this here. Hopefully, I think YouTube shouldn't have any issues with me posting a YouTube link. This is where you can see any past and also any upcoming webinars too. And again, we do 3 different types of webinars so far. We do an onboarding webinar, where we talk through the basics of Julius, or what is Julius. We do a notebooks webinar, which is what I was just talking about, how you could get the most out of the notebooks feature. And then ones like these ones, where we talk about data connectors and how you could connect to some of the ones that we're building, and then also answer any other the broad questions that we have too. So that's where you can sort of reference those. The other place that you could also tune into is our Luma, Lu.ma. You can see our event here. I'll go to the event page. And then you could also stay tuned or subscribe to our Julius AI account, which I'll post here in the chat as well. But you can see all the upcoming webinars as well. Cool. So that's the overview, right? I think, again, today we just covered 3 main connectors. We covered Google Drive and OneDrive. We covered Google Ads. And then the third one we covered was an actual Postgres connector. The BigQuery connectors and then also the Snowflake ones are pretty straightforward to connect to. If you guys do have those, or your data does live in one of those data warehouses, you guys can try those out. Supabase, very similar to Postgres connector. And then, as always, we have documentation that our team, Noreen here, has been updating. We have all of our data connector documents here, and then you could see how exactly you could set up Postgres, which we talked about today, or some of the other data connectors that we've rolled out. The other one I would say try out, and we're not going to dive too much in this one because it's still in really early access, is some of these MCPs, right? These allow you to directly connect to some of these companies that have built what they call MCP servers. If you're non-technical like myself, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Even saying that out loud doesn't really help. For me, the way I imagine it is it's a way for you to connect these tools to Julius without needing to go through this complex setup process. It's a fancy way for saying you can connect these things together and then do things backwards and forwards through these different connectors, right? So for Notion, for example, maybe we'll do this in the next webinar, you could connect to your Notion, and then you could, where did I go? You can connect to your Notion, and then you could maybe update a Notion page using the results from Julius, or you could summarize something and throw that into your Notion that you update, right? That's one cool way. If you do Intercom, right? We use Intercom internally, right? If you ever want to message our team, you could reach out to us on Intercom. You could see like conversation data. You could see any trends or any tickets or tag data. Bring them into Julius and update your analysis there. So we have a whole bunch of different ones that we have coming down the pipeline. But again, you could always request new ones here. HubSpot, really frequent one or common one. Salesforce, another common one. A way for you to get any customer-related data, analyze it, and then update something, right? That's the MCPs that we have here. Cool. Awesome. I know that's quite a lot of information. I'll keep it pretty high level though. Do give it a try and then let us know any feedback. Reach out to us here at team@julius.ai. Alternatively, we mentioned this last time, you could join our community Slack, which we recently spun up. But you can click here. We monitor this channel, that workspace 24/7. You could reach out to us if you have any questions too. There. Awesome. That's it for this webinar. We'll dive next week on some of the other top coming ones. Other things that are coming down the pipeline are really building out some more of these ones, the MCPs that we have. One cool one that we have previewed last night, I'll give you guys a sneak preview of just like verbally, is the Zapier connection. I think that one is really, really cool. Zapier lets you connect Julius directly to Zapier, which has a plethora of different integrations. So even just last night, we were able to create a calendar or create a Google Doc from Julius directly. I think the other cool things that you could potentially do is even send out an email or maybe send out a Slack notification from a run of a Julius notebook or Julius analysis. So something to look forward to there in some of the future webinars. As always, if you guys have any feedback, let us know. We'll send out a feedback survey. If there's anything in these webinars you wish we covered more, if there's something, a specific use case, maybe you want us to talk about like marketing more in depth or like business operations more in depth. One good feedback we got from the last webinar was like doing a workshop session. So I think that would be really cool. Maybe we'll do that one next week, but maybe we'll share like a Google Sheet or a Google Drive that you guys can use, and then we'll walk through doing an analysis like Bob Ross style. I think that'd be pretty interesting. But as always, let us know any feedback that you guys have. Any last minute questions before we hop? We'd love to see if there's anything else there. Yeah, I think that would be cool. It'd be interesting to see the outputs and see. We do that internally here sometimes too. Like, hey, we all run the same cell. Let's see how Julius visualizes it. And again, it could do it any number of ways since these things are non-deterministic. So visualizations using different models, I think that'd be really awesome. Cool. We'll follow up with feedback, and then we'll send you guys an email with any other links that we talked about in today's webinar. Hope you have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are tuning in from, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.